Never miss an episode of the Final Furlong podcast. Subscribe now on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And now, here's your host, Emmet Kennedy.
Welcome to the Final Furlong podcast. Hopefully you were with us for the weekend preview where we gave you 6 winners, and there were some big price winners in there as well. We are back previewing the best of the weekend's racing, and indeed our full York preview is coming your way very, very soon. So make sure you like and subscribe to the Final Furlong podcast on YouTube and whichever podcast app it is you're listening to us on. In this episode of the show, Adam Mills, Jamie Wrenn and I are going to take an early look at the major races for the Juddmonte International meeting, the York Ebor meeting. You have to give it its proper title, the Ebor meeting at York. So we're going to look at the Juddmonte International, Coolmore, Nunthorpe, Yorkshire Oaks, that'll be a real puzzle, and the Ebor, which Jamie Wrenn is very confident that he has the winner of. But before we get to those races, we'll look back on the best of what we saw from the weekend and spare a thought for Adam Mills. Black armbands in the Mills household as the Group 1 sprinting sensation Lazzat, the horse that was going to revolutionize, rejuvenate, and save the sprinting division, got chinned. It's a very, very short price favourite in the Prix Maurice de Gheest at the weekend. He was beaten by Oisin Murphy and Sajir. They say Andre Fabre can't train sprinters. Well, it turns out he can. And this horse is unbeaten under Oisin Murphy. And I'm a right fool, Adam Mills, because I backed Sajir for the Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee Stakes. Didn't have a cent on him, though, in this race. So I felt like a right dummy.
Well, you probably didn't feel as much of a dummy as I did, thinking Lazzat was a good value price at 4-7, but it's just the way it goes. I think in hindsight, there's no way on earth Sajir is suddenly this 125 rated sprinter who's down Lazzat. I don't mean to criticise James Doyle because he was brilliant at Ascot, but I just think he got this wrong. I suspect they were looking at this race thinking, we've got this sewn up. And if we don't give him too hard a time, we can probably turn him around quickly and get a haydock as well. And they just didn't go hard enough. The reason Lazzat wins his races is he blasts at the start. Opening 2 furlongs are normally absolutely red-hot pace. He gets everything else out of its comfort zone. So far clear they can't get to him. This race had a finishing speed. Everything's got a finishing speed of well over 100%. The leaders are closer to 110. They just went a bit of a crawl. There's no real pace in the race. That suits Sajir. He's got 2 sub-11-second furlongs in the closing stages. On the one hand, the form's all right because Woodshaughner's there and Lazzat is gone again in the closing stages, but to be beaten by Sajir is just a real kick in the nuts. I think they got the tactics completely wrong, and I think on another day, Lazzat would absolutely bury him. We should also say that Jerome Rainier is not in the greatest form at the moment, so there is the possible slight excuse, but I don't really want to make an excuse because Sajir's done it the hard way. He's come from the back in a steadily run race down the centre of the course without the rail to help. So you'd have to be thinking maybe he's done all right there to win it, and he's the horse who's best suited by that setup. But in future, when they go harder from the front and when Lazzat is just allowed to gallop on, I'd be fairly confident that he's going to reverse this form with ease. 35
days and 17 runners since Jerome Rainier had a winner. That's possible an excuse. Just to stay with Lazzat for a second, he's suddenly a bigger price than people were expecting for the champion sprint at Ascot. Back to that track. Now, we've no idea what the ground conditions are going to be. Sometimes it's so bad they have to run on the jumps course. But 11-4, that's the price that I'm seeing on offer. Does that appeal to you for the champion sprint?
If I knew he was definitely going to run, it would do. I think if he's 11-4 on the day by some miracle, then I'd be all in. I'm not worried about the ground at all. He sort of began his career at Cannes-sur-Mer in February when, you know, they will run on tarmac. They'll also run on quicksand. They're not really bothered about the conditions. So he'll go through the mud fine. I'd just be a little concerned as kind of there is that nagging doubt of maybe Ascot left a bit of a mark. And I'd kind of think he won the Prix Maurice de Gheest last year pretty easily. This looked a little bit laboured. I'd hope they'd ease off him now. I definitely don't think he'll get a haydock. If he lines up, I'll back him at 7-4. So 11-4 would probably be value, but I just want to be kind of relieved that he's over it.
Again, Adam Mills was the person telling us that this was the horse who was going to win the Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee Stakes a month before the race, and we all should have listened. Those of you who did, you did very well, especially if you kept the faith. I backed Sajir, as I was saying at Royal Ascot at Jamie, so I felt like a complete idiot having not backed him in this race. 3 from 3 at 6.5 furlongs. He's unbeaten in 2 starts under Oisin Murphy as well. I get it with the whole criticism of James Doyle, but actually Sajir was a really good winner of this race.
Exactly right. He didn't go hard enough, and then he looked like, to be honest, what I saw was he looked like he was going to get swallowed, but then stayed on again to be second. Do you know what I mean? Even if you put Lazzat, I always think Lazzat now because you could go anywhere with him in the world. I think he might need 7 furlongs, but look, as Adam says, 6 furlongs at Ascot seems to be his bag, and 11-4 now for a champion sprint is appealing if he does turn up, and I would back him. But I think exactly what Adam says. You need to ease off now, because I think Ascot did tell its toll, because he was absolutely magic at Ascot. You have to give him credit where credit is due. But sprint races, you could run that 100 times and you're going to have, Lazzat wins, and all of a sudden Sajir wins. He didn't go hard enough, and it just played into Sajir's strengths, to be honest with you. If they turned up against each other again in a couple of months' time, I'd be back at Lazzat, not Sajir.
Okay, there's no prices on Sajir for Champions Day at Ascot. Not entirely sure what they're going to do with him next, but wherever he goes, he's going to be interesting. The problem is, this is the thing we keep on seeing over and over again. Oh, look, this sprinter is now the new one who's emerged on the scene, and then they get duffed on the next start. And they just keep beating one another. You're still looking for a horse to really grab this division by the scruff of the neck and take hold of it. It's just nothing. And Lazzat looked like he was the one who was going to do it. Maybe he still will. He's finished second. He's only just been beaten by a horse who's maybe progressive late in life for a genius trainer in Andre Fa. But I think you need to be looking at horses at double-figure prices, really, for the champion sprint. And the problem with that is, which of these sprinters is going to come into form at that time of year and then maintain that form to be good enough to go? Because the thing with sprinters, Adam, is you're just trying to find one that is in form, theoretically, and then hopefully they continue that progression. But is there anything in the division that really stands out like that right now? No,
Lazzat would still stand out. And the one positive I take from the weekend, if I can, is he's still miles ahead of the British horses.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's finished last and run completely out of kilter with the form book. But I think you take the view that in the sprinting division, particularly at 5 furlongs, we've basically got good handicappers winning top class sprints. And that should be ringing alarm bells, because good handicappers should win good handicaps. They shouldn't be able to step up into Group 1 and Group 2 company and win. And that's what's happened this year. American Affair, JM Jungle. The division is still really lacking any real depth. We'll probably come to kind of the Irish sprints in a minute. And it's very similar scene at the Curragh. So I think Lazzat and probably Sajir and maybe even Wood Shawner, maybe we're underestimating the French sprinters. Actually, it looks like the French sprinting division, particularly over 6 furlongs, is much stronger than the British. There's no reason to doubt that from the weekend. Sajir could presumably drop down to 5 if they really wanted to. He's also got form at Newmarket. Wood Shawner has backed up his good performance last week, and I think Soumillon would probably want this weekend's ride again. And I think he got so obsessed with looking at Lazzat, he failed to realise Sajir was coming on the far side. Those three have put nearly 2 lengths between themselves, and regional is quite a good yardstick. I think my plan will probably be with the sprints. Let's just see, turn up and back them, because I don't think the Japanese lad will come over, and I think the British and Irish are terrible. Maybe it's just that simple that we'll just let Mr. Farber, Mr. Rainier, and anybody else, Mr. Graffard, whoever they decide to send, that's the way to back it, because it looks like the French horses are a little bit way ahead in this division.
Well, if that is the case, then keep an eye on Top Gear and Bovadier, because they can bounce back, and especially if they're coming over to here.
Yeah.
I mean, our lot they really aren't that great. Hey, maybe it's starting to improve, though. Maybe Kia Jabrakan has the ammo.
Oh, geez.
I'm not even sorry. I'm not even sorry. Phoenix Sprint Stakes goes to Buchanura Forte. He's 2 from 2 for the season. He'd been packed off the stud, but that didn't quite work out for him, and that's probably a good thing for the sprinting division, because we need some new blood into it. 2 from 2 for this season. He bounced back from having missed Royal Ascot with a bout of colic to go and win this race. He beats the really admirable My Mate Alfie for Gerald Lyons again. Kind of Blue looked like he was coming back to some kind of form. But the old boy, Art Power, who is getting old. I mean, I love the horse. He's got a great record at the Curragh. He's won 4 of his 6 starts. Now he's won 4 of his 7. He's only beaten 2 lengths. Like, he did win the champion sprint at Ascot only 2 seasons ago, but you can't look at that and not say that's not holding the form down. And Kind of Blue has been so miserable this season. And despite the fact that this is a very valuable Group 3, James Doyle didn't come over for the ride. So it's not like they were massively confident about him going into the race, but Buchanura Forte can only beat what's put in front of him, Adam, and he beat them fair and square.
Yeah, I mean, it's hardly a news flash that, group sprint race in Ireland won by winner who makes all, because I think there's a definite advantage
At the Curragh.
Getting out in front of the Curragh. But Buccaneer Fuerte won this with some authority. It's not like he's clinging on in the final stages. He's got these at arm's length. Those in behind him are all right. The form, you're right, with Art Power would be a question. I'd also think Art Power would probably prefer a bit more cut in the ground, and yet he's only 4 legs back. But
yeah.
The one thing you'd say about Buccaneer Fuerte is him and the other Ammo Racing horse, whose name escapes me at the moment, those two sprinters could kind of dominate the Irish sprinting division. There's not too many at this stage in Ireland that would really excite you. So if they continue to campaign him in Ireland, you'd have to think he'd do all right. I mean, he's another one to sort of keep an eye on. If they were so inclined to go to Ascot at the end of the season, it's not impossible to think that he could sort of finish in the frame if that was the way they decided to go.
Arizona Blaze, we'll talk about in the Coolmore Nunthorpe in a few minutes.
Yeah, this is... On the one hand, he's beaten my mate Alfie, who we know absolutely everything about. But the one thing you can say about my mate Alfie is he's consistent. And he generally runs his race to exactly the same kind of level, that kind of 110, 112 sort of rating. Buccaneer Fuerte's beaten him relatively easily. And actually, these days, you probably only need to be 115 rated sprinter to dominate the division. So I certainly won't be keen to take him on next time unless he's bumping into something from outside of Ireland or the UK.
Yeah, if it's French, Japanese or Australian, then fair enough. But it's more than likely to be a French horse given the way the season is stacking up. Babouche is becoming very disappointing, Jamie. Ides of March, I was feeling very smug. The Lucky 63 had started off quite nicely. Sunfall was a non-runner. Royal Dubai had won. There was another winner on it as well. It's rolling into Ides of March, 11-1, backed into 5-2 favoritism. Happy day. Oh, misses the start. And that was pretty much race over for him, particularly with the way the Curragh was riding. Speed favouring track where the pace bias was holding up. It was extremely difficult to come from off that pace. His race was over really before it begins. To a certain extent, I actually want to forgive him this performance and keep him in mind for another race. To another extent, I'm like, I don't know how much more I can keep doing that.
But you know yourself, Emma, we keep repeating ourselves every episode. What ways that these sprinters will keep beating themselves.
Yeah.
Every time. But go back to what Adam said about my mate Alfie. I actually backed the horse started the weekend in the William McCreary horse First Sportillo, but that was a stupid bet by me because I forgot that First Sportillo was getting a lot away from my mate Alfie the last day, but I wanted the Curragh.
But she's progressive though, and she's unexposed as a sprinter, so it did make sense.
Sprinter did make kind of sense, but she was disappointed. But you couldn't come off the pace on Saturday, do you know what I mean? Babouche, I don't know where that horse is going, but I noticed something about Babouche. Does the Curragh really suit it? Do you know what I mean? I thought it was more impressive every time went kind of that day at Naas, do you know what I mean? Back at the start, there was the Royal Ascot trial day they had, and everyone was kind of getting excited about Babouche. I don't know. Maybe he just hasn't trained on as a 3-year-old, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a quote from Gerline. I know Ger can be pessimistic sometimes, but maybe it was the Naas win over Whistlejacket.
Yeah, he got a bit excited.
He was just very downbeat. That should be, we've got her back. This is great. Yeah. She's a Group 1 winning sprinter last year. The only disappointment was the UK. We've got her back. He wasn't being like that.
Exactly that horse you said, Whistlejacket, is not to be forgotten either for a group sprint on soft ground. Not to be dismissed because that horse is crying out for a stiff 6 furlongs on soft ground. Would I forget Burkhardt Fuente is great form at the Curragh, but was never won. It was the first time winning at 6 with a power clear, but they got an easy soft lead, and you just knew it was going to win anyway when they got to the front. But you might think, as I said, we said it off air. Because looking at this, if Lazzat doesn't turn up for the Spring Cup, it's the same as running against each other. Do you know what I mean? And I see there kind of Blues third weekend. He's coming back to small bit of form, compared to these two last year. And because I thought it was a step in the right direction on him, he's 14-1 for a head-up Spring Cup. The way the division's going, how could you put me off? But sometimes you just kind of get sucked into these horses and think they'll come back eventually. But yeah, he definitely is going to be on my mind for the Spring Cup because, as Adam says, British and Irish sprinters are way behind the French horses at the moment, aren't they?
Oh, massively.
there is one other name if we're going to sort of have a little anti-post preview of the Champion Sprint, but if they were really gutsy with More Thunder, would it not really suit him to be in the same race as Lazzat? Because if Lazzat's in it, they'll go really hard. More Thunder would get a target to aim at, which is what he needs.
Mm-hmm.
We spent all year saying stupid handicappers keep winning the Group 1 horses, but maybe that's the route to take. And actually, the difference between More Thunder's wins and recent form and the Group 1 level might only be £7 or £8, and he's 16-1.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is. There's a couple of firms are going 16-1 about him as I'm looking at it now. There's a couple of firms have ducked him and gone 12s. We're going to see him this weekend in the Bunbury Cup at Newbury, so hopefully he goes and wins that. And I would imagine that's going to be his group debut. I would imagine they would have Group 1 aspirations. If he's able to pass that test, then that would seem like the most ideal race for him. Softer ground would probably help him get the real stiff 6 furlongs at Ascot, especially if Lazzat is there to tow him along too. So he'd be a really interesting runner at 16s. I think Kind of Blue is more interesting for the Champion Sprint. He's an Ascot horse. That's where you get the best out of him, and it may just be that James Francho is working back from that race, and that everything is about just building him to get him peak for that, for which he's 20s. So he's the one I'd probably throw a dart at right now. And the other, if we're going to talk about Haydocks,
that's what no Lazzat. Like, are they targeting him without Lazzat?
Yeah, but they ran Floor of Bermuda and Lazzat in the
that's true. Yeah, first and third.
So they may just throw a whole lot of bullets at it towards the end of the season. Like Watan were great at Royal Ascot, and Goodwood was like, eh. But it's not like they've dominated in the way it looked like they were going to. So I would imagine they'll just, if they've got a trainer telling them this horse is ready for this race, I don't think they're going to say, nah, we've got another one. I don't think they'll do that. I think they'll just fire all the bullets they can at them.
I think it's also important to remember that Lazzat is a gelding. So there's absolutely nothing to lose if he gets beat. You can just roll him out next time. It's not like there's some sort of stallion career where they're going to compete against each other. So you can take him on.
Yeah. That's a good point to make as well. A very important one. Buccaneer Forte, where would you like to see him go next? Flying 5, I presume, on Irish Champions Weekend?
Yeah, that's a penalty kick, that Group 1, isn't it, really? It's never been a good Group 1 in the first place, so he should win that doing handstands, really.
5 okay for him?
Yeah, he's won twice at 5. That was the first time he won at 6, isn't it? In the group race at 6 furlongs. I think so. Yeah, he all his best runs are 5.
Yeah, he won at 5 at Naas at the start of the season, but he's defeats at the track at 5 and 7 furlongs. But yeah, look, he's done it. He's in the winner's enclosure. Keija Bracken, his team got a C for the season so far from the Racing Post. I'd say he unsubscribed from the Racing Post instantly and threw his iPad off the wall, and then probably sent them some long-winded message about, how do you like them apples, Racing Post, after he dominates the Curragh at the weekend. Part of that Curragh domination, by the way, I'm not saying that in any way other than fair play. It's a piece of content, but I'd say Keija Bracken really enjoyed getting those big wins from the weekend. One of them came in the Group 1 Phoenix Stakes, a race that we all just assumed True Love was going to win because she buried Power Blue the time before, and Ryan Moore switched to her in the absence of Gestad. But no, she is lame this morning as we're recording on Monday, so that would explain why she was beaten. And she just didn't look the same filly at all, Adam. So there's a legitimate excuse as to why she was beaten, and hopefully they'll get her back on track sooner rather than later, and she can resume her progression. But Power Blue was good.
Was she good, or was she beating a lame filly? I'm not. I can't decide.
More than likely that.
I watched the race and I thought, all the way up the straight to about the 2 furlong part, I thought, well, just at some point Ryan will ask True Love to stretch, and that'll be it. And then it's almost like just went like that, and she didn't find anything. There's enough evidence to say that Power Blue, whilst a good horse, is not in the same league as True Love and Gestad on what we know so far. This was a good performance. You know, I'm sure Connections really don't care. They've won a Group 1 with him, which is absolutely perfect. But aside from that, I'm looking at this race and thinking you just got to put a line through it. When the 1-4 favourite has a legitimate excuse for getting beaten, I don't think we can rely too heavily on the form. And if you look at the earlier form that Power Blue had, you know, he's 3rd of 4 the time before in what was arguably a weaker race there's nothing that you wouldn't sit and watch that Railway Stakes and think, oh, I tell you what, Power Blue's going to do that form next time. He's absolutely nowhere near true love. She's injured, hasn't run a race. Congratulations to Connections, but move on, because next time he'll bump into one of Aiden's that's fully fit and be put in his place.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. And the race is somewhat summed up by the fact that you just had so many horses who were missing from it, Jamie. There was no Albert Einstein, no Charles Darwin, no Gestad, no Godolphin Superstar 2-year-old. I don't even know who a Godolphin Superstar 2-year-old is as things stand. In some ways, that race was sort of summed up by who didn't turn up as opposed to who did. He's won, but you wouldn't be falling over yourself to back him for a group race going forward.
Exactly what you're saying there, Emmet, about, I'm going to be smart here. How do you like them apples? Especially when they with Gestad, there's nothing wrong with Gestad. They thought True Love would win the race. And it's just unlucky. She could see her coming over the side. She was coming to win the race. And she hung a bit, and you could see that she, Duck afterwards, said, post my lameness on the floor, whatever, said on the racing post after race, whatever. But, if she ran again and they ran again, and she's fit and ready, she'll destroy Power Blue. And fair play, they had a go again and they beat her. But I still wouldn't give up on the form of True Love and Gestad. As I said, and I repeat myself, that Navan race is still the best 2-year-old race all year at the start of the season when Gestad beat True Love. Hopefully, but now what we want to see is Gestad back and see if Gestad is fitting well. Coppell obviously won to Richmond at Goodwood. Do Not is probably the best maiden in training probably at the moment in the UK in the 2-year-old sphere. So,
and who was also behind him that day? Power Blue.
Power Blue, yeah. So, do you know what I mean? We have to wait to see if we see Gestad again, and if the 2-year-old form isn't great. But no, I'd forgive her the run.
Yeah, we're going to see him in Deauville next. It's the same race that Blackbeard won. And it's the same race that Van Dijk won, his half-brother. And given the fact that he's by Star Spangled Banner, he should be able to progress a little bit more as a juvenile. He should, technically speaking, be able to train on as a 3-year-old as well from the Star Spangled Banner angle. So maybe Gestad is going to be that superstar, the next Blue Point, an actual sprinter that can make a significant impact as a 3-year-old and dominate. We're looking for a horse like that to be able to do it. Hopefully, big pressure, son. We're putting a lot on your shoulders there, but we really need a horse to emerge to dominate the sprint division. It was a big weekend for Charlie Appleby. He had a Grade 1 win in America. Flavian Pratt was on board. William Buick. Peter Michael is not here to bash William Buick, so maybe I'll do it. Maybe Nation's Pride is over the top. Maybe he is no longer going to be the horse he once was, but you're not going to win at Saratoga by gunning a horse off the final turn. So I don't really know what he was doing on Nation's Pride there, but hey, it worked out very nicely for the other Godolphin horse, El Corbedes, who suddenly turned the corner. He was a good winner at Newmarket. He was even better in that race in the Sword Dancer. I wouldn't be getting overly carried away about him as a Breeders' Cup turf hero, though. I would be getting carried away about Rebel's Romance. So I'm very interested to hear what Adam Mills is going to say about both. Billy Lucknan was on board, danced to the music. We'll talk about her in a few minutes, but let's give the old boy his flowers. Rebel's Romance is unbeaten in all starts in Germany. He's now an 8-time Group 1 winner, over £11 million in prize money. That makes him the winning most Group 1 performer in the history of the Godolphin operation, the winning most prize money earner in the history of the Godolphin operation. He's a first Group 1 winner for Billy Lucknan. He was racing as a horse 2 years before Billy Lucknan had his first ever ride. Epic scenes in Germany.
Yeah, epic scenes. Really clever piece of placement by Charlie Appleby. This was a much better performance than when he won this race 2 or 3 years ago. This was certainly better than that. He's beaten Junko now. Look, Junko is not the horse he was. He's just lost his bit of jazz that he had at the end of his races that he doesn't really have anymore. But yeah, really clever ride by Billy out from the start. Right, Junko doing his usual thing of pulling. So if I just sit on his shoulder, the course at Harbourgarden's really weird, kind of. The bends don't look that tight, but when you look at the geo data, you're like, actually, these things are almost like right angles coming into the straight. Yeah. And just there's a brief moment where you sort of think, oh, is Junko going to get a run? But he's not. Final 2 furlongs, Rebel's Romance kicks in the turbo. Fastest top speed, longest stride, fastest final 2 furlongs, away he goes. You know, he's a wonderful horse. And to do all of that 15 days after chasing home Calandagan, you know, Jan Bruegel hasn't even finished the race at Ascot, and Rebel's Romance is in the stalls in Germany. He's ready to go again. You know, it's like, Give me another go. It's kind of it pays a compliment to Calandigan, but it should really pay a compliment to Rebels Romance. You know, whatever we think of Junko is a very big horse, and he's very hard to pass when he's in front. And the only time Junko ever gets beat is by a horse that's got the speed to do him for a turn of foot, and that's what Rebels Romance has done. If you look at their sectional times all the way down the back straight, there's nothing more than 0.02 seconds between them, all the way until the final 2 furlongs, and then Billy Lockdown has to give him a kick in the belly and he's off. Come on in, let's have a race. And Junko's, I've got nothing. Sorry, mate. So that you know, Rebels Romance is great. If he goes back to the Breeders' Cup, it's going to take one hell of a horse to beat him, because all the data suggests he's as good as he ever was.
That's music to my ears, because I've backed him at 5-1 for the Breeders' Cup Turf, and I cannot see defeat for this horse. Don't think Calandigan will run. If he does, he'd be a major player. But how will Calandigan cope with America? How will he cope with the tight turning track at Del Mar? We know he'd be fine on the ground, but would he be acclimatized to America? Don't know. Delacroix would be intriguing.
Sorry, I've got to stop you there. Calandigan will absolutely murder him.
Yeah, but he's not going to
turn
turn
up. The point about Rebels Romance is he won't meet Calandigan.
Yeah, he's not going to turn up. But he's favoured for the race. Bookmakers have made him favourite. Delacroix would be interesting stepping up to a 3.5 miles, but maybe Coolmore decide to do that. It's the kind of thing they do. He'd be following in Augusto Rodin's footsteps. Los Angeles is well named to head out to Los Angeles and try and win, but he missed the Breeders' Cup last year. Ombudsman, I don't think, will run. Who's going to beat Rebels Romance? He's going for his 3rd Breeders' Cup turf win, and you're getting 5-1. Oh, just put him in the anti-post multiples, Jamie Wrenn.
Hold on a minute. I got to take on Mr. Mills here. Rebels Romance will beat Calandigan in the Breeders' Cup turf.
Yes, Jamie Wrenn! Yes!
What a fool.
Knockout blow from the Rebels.
Calandigan around bends and turns. Oh, no way. No. I'm probably going back as I've burnt my finger so many times, Calandigan, and finishing second, and now I'm not going to forgive him for that. But around tight bends around Del Mar, no way will he beat Rebels Romance. I don't care how good he is. He'll be too far behind. He'll get stuck, and as you say, like Barcelona will get him into trouble. So, no, Rebels Romance will be Calandigan. I hope Calandigan turns up, because then we get a bigger price in Rebels Romance.
Oh, I love it. Now, is El Corbedes a genuine threat to him? Like, what did you make of the Sword Dancer performance?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
No, I think that was more a case of one horse was really suited to the tight turns at Saratoga, and the other one wasn't.
Mm.
And really good ride by Flavian Pratt. You know, El Cordobés won that race fair and square. Really good performance, really good turn of foot. But I just felt the race was perfectly side, and everything else in El Cordobés' form would suggest he's a little way behind Rebels Romance. So he might run well at the Breeders' Cup, but he won't beat Rebels Romance, let alone anything else that turns up. So
there was a win in race for it, so he will be in the Breeders' Cup turf, assuming Godolphin decide to let him go. But he won't be Buick's mount, and I don't think he's going to be good enough to win it. I don't think he's suddenly improved enough that he can go and win a Breeders' Cup turf. Yeah. It was a nice North American Grade 1. There is another point of contention to just add into that as well. The favourite was given one of the worst rides I have seen for quite a while. I have no idea what Joel Rosario thought he was doing on Farbridge. I just don't know what he was doing. That horse is best when he's on the front end. And it's like he rode 3 different races. First of all, he takes him back. Then he decides to go forward. Then he goes back midfield. And then he uses up an awful lot of petrol at a very early point of the race, where you can't win it from there. But you're now going to have to commit to that. And then he doesn't commit to it. Buick burns them off the final turn, thinking he's going to somehow last out on Nation's Pride. That was never going to happen. And then the gap opens up and El Corbedes comes through. It's a very nice performance from El Corbedes. Great piece of training from Charlie Appleby. Great piece of placing from him. Great ride from Flavian Pratt. That's a race I'd have a bit of a raised eyebrow about.
Yeah, I think you have to, just because of the way it panned out. You need to see El Cordobés go and do this again when the pace doesn't collapse in front of him. And if he does that, then he's a Breeders' Cup horse. But you can get a bit like we said with Sajir, a bit like we said with countless Group 1s this year, it feels like. You've got to go and do it again under different circumstances, because there's no guarantee that the exact same thing will happen at Del Mar.
Yeah, and the fair play to the Fox Sports pundits. They were all over El Corbedes. They were expecting him to run a really massive race. Keisha Clement, who's the wife of Miguel, she was talking the horse up as well and saying how good he looked in the parade ring. They were expecting a massive performance from Farbridge, and somebody made a mistake, a rare mistake from the Fox Sports editorial team, because they cut to Miguel Clement right after the race. So you're supposed to cut to the winning trainer. He just looked like a bull. He had a face of like thunder. It's like, what the hell is Joel Rosario just done? But by the way, that race is going to be changed. The name is going to be changed to be named after his father, Christophe Clement, going forward, which is just a really nice touch from the New York Racing Association. He was a legendary trainer. He passed away this year. And so that is now going to be the Resorts World Casino Christophe Clement Grade 1 going forward. So that's a really nice touch from them. And Farbridge will be back in the winner's enclosure sooner rather than later, I imagine, but that was a pretty horrible ride. To the juveniles, we'll switch to a big weekend kicking off for Billy Loughnane with Dance to the Music winning for the second time. She'd won on her debut over 6 furlongs, but she'd been off the track for quite a while. She's a sister to Space Blues. Space Blues produced the winner of the Group 1 Phoenix Stakes. His sister now goes and wins the Group 3 Sweet Solara Stakes, but straight after the race, Charlie Appleby was saying he doesn't see her as a Guineas filly, which I was a little bit surprised at because she won this race well. And I think the second horse is quite a nice horse as well. And you've got Phoenician Lace in behind, so there's some proven form there. She looks like a nice prospect going forward, Adam.
She does. I thought this was really impressive, really gutsy. I like the way she hit the line. If she's not a Guineas filly, what is she? But this to me looked like a really good Guineas performance. She's kind of taken on some of the established 2-year-olds, put them in their place, done this really nicely. I think Jamie said off air that probably like the Cheveley Park looks the obvious route, and that would make a lot of sense. But surely she's got to be a Guineas filly. She gallops up the line. She really seemed to enjoy the rising ground. She's hit the line well. She's responding for pressure. I don't know. Maybe they look at Space Blues and think, no, we're going to go a different route. But I was really impressed by this. First time I've really seen a filly and thought, yeah, I could see you lining up a Newmarket. And then you hear Charlie Appleby's comments and it's like, well, maybe you won't get a Newmarket. But this was really good. I think I'm kind of quite looking forward to backing her in the Cheveley Park, because if she runs there, that's the kind of horse that I'd want to be with, that I know will handle the track and that I want to go up the hill.
Now, we still have to see who's going to turn up in that race. There's going to be Venetian Lace, Venetian Sun. I think they want to go up and trip with her because they want to train her as a Guineas filly. So it looks like 7 furlongs. You've got Composing, who's a really exciting filly for Aidan O'Brien. We'll see. A couple of horses in behind. Venetian Lace was on the front end this time around. She ran a nice race. This is kind of what she is. She's good enough to run well in the Chesham, good enough to run well in the Superlative Stakes, good enough to run well in this. Whether she's ever going to win one of these, it might fall her way someday, but she's a nice filly. Princess Petrol, I thought, stayed on really well. The one that was just unlucky was Midnight Tango, and the gamble on her was unbelievable, Jamie Wrenn. 7-4, she's backed as though defeat's out of the question. Oisin Murphy couldn't get a run when he needed to. By the time she gets out, she gets going all too late. But that's a performance I would mark up and keep her in mind going forward. But Dance to the Music was good.
She was, MS. I tipped her on Joe's show. We were all... and she drifted. I couldn't believe the drift. But I think the drift was because she's been off since May after beating Midnight Tango by 4 lengths on her debut. And of course, Midnight Tango's had a few runs since, and the gamble was massive. I couldn't believe it, and I was getting worried. My dough was gone. But the other side of it is that because of the layoff from May now to August for Dance to Music, which is great, and you see she's in good health. There's more improvement hopefully to come, and exactly what I said off air before we started, that like what's not to like, twice a winner at Newmarket. I know you switched to the Roddy Mile for Cheveley Park, but it doesn't matter. It's still Newmarket at the end of the day. I know they're 2 different tracks, but it's still down into the hill into a little dip and up a hill. It's the same thing, like it's different obviously, Roddy Mile and July course, but I like the horse that has been stepped to the same track and the same venue, and look, she's definitely going to hopefully line up in the Cheveley Park against the Aidan O'Brien filly, and we'll see who is the best, but which one is the best of Aidan O'Brien at 6 furlongs at the moment. True Love's after to be beaten, but we'll get back to that another day. But yeah, I like her, and on to better things.
Yeah, I agree. I think she's very interesting, unless Charlie Appleby has got something much more exciting for the 1,000 guineas, which he may very well have, I would imagine that she will end up as a Guineas filly at some point. Whether it's Newmarket or French 1,000 Guineas, you would imagine that that's what they'll do with her. She's a Dubawi. She's a half-sister to Space Blues. He improved with racing. He was winning Group 1s as a 5-year-old. She should improve and progress with age. She's a very, very nice filly going forward. We've often joked on the podcast about Godolphin's tendency to geld a horse very, very quickly. And look, that can pay off dividends. Rebel's Romance is a horse we're all able to enjoy racing at the age of 7 because he's a gelding. But it's not something that Coolmore do. This is not a policy of Coolmore. If you want to buy a horse that you have bought from Aidan O'Brien and geld that horse, that's your right. You can choose to do that. Your horse may very well improve for the gelding operation. That will be one of the angles that they use. But on the weekend where they've announced not only is Trinity College gone to go and race in Australia, but Serious Contender, the Irish Derby runner-up, has also been sold to go and race in Hong Kong. They produce not one, but 2 geldings in a maiden. And one of them absolutely bolts up, with Aidan O'Brien joking on Racing TV afterwards that maybe he shouldn't have gelded him. He's a no-nay never. He was very, very wayward on his debut. He's improved significantly for his second start. He's obviously improved for the gelding up. There's still a bit of a wayward tendency to him, but Mission Central looks a very interesting prospect. And Ryan Moore was saying to Aidan O'Brien afterwards, back into group company now, Adam.
Yeah, he's if he wasn't a gelding, we'd all be sort of going, look at this tool. Finally, Aidan's, got one that's come out of this, and this looks great. I mean, he's won by 8 lengths. I don't really. There must have been a reason why they gelded him. Maybe it was just a complete nutcase and they couldn't get him to train or whatever. But 625,000 guineas is a big investment to make in a yearling. Dam's an unraced sister to Group 1 winner, Prosperous Voyage. What? On the breeding side of things, surely you're not gelding this straight away. Mm. So there was obviously a reason for it.
He must have been a nightmare.
He must have been a nightmare. Now, he's absolutely battered them. We don't know really what he's beaten, but he's battered them by 8 lengths, so that's always a good sign. It'll be fascinating because he's really going to, even though in the Guineas and he's not going to develop into anything of that nature, what he is going to do is interrupt the preparation for that, because he can run in all the 2-year-old races, and that's going to make it very interesting. As kind of, you could end up with a season that Aidan's best 2-year-old can't possibly run in a classic. Now, we're a long way from saying that, but he's just won a maiden by 8 lengths with relative ease, and they must think something of him, because otherwise they wouldn't have gelded him and run him in their own colours. They'd have just chucked him in the sales as a cast-off. So there's got to be something here, certainly one to get behind. It's really unusual, because normally you'd sort of think, well, it's a gelding, so that kind of limits your options, and you end up sort of spending most of the first half of the year fighting around in Group 3 enlisted company because you can't run any higher. But he looks really exciting, and he's not just won by half of them; he's absolutely battered them. And if he was a colt, my goodness, we'd all be leaping all over him.
Well, if he was a colt, we'd be talking about him for the Commonwealth Cup straight away, Jamie. But of course, he can't run in that race because he's a gelding. So if anybody's putting him up as an anti-post selection for that race, just bear that in mind. And look, there's an awful long way to go, but there's a long way to go.
They probably haven't priced.
Say that again, Jamie?
Take odds checker there, they probably haven't priced.
Somebody probably does, but
yeah.
If I waste my odds checker look up on that, then I have to reset the site. I can't be bothered. I'm just not going to do it. But this was a smart performance. Again, it's just a change in policy from Coolmore. They don't do this. They don't geld their horses like that. Queenstown is a lead horse, so that doesn't matter that he's a gelding. But this is just not a policy of theirs. They don't do it, and so it's such an unusual thing to see. And then for the horse to absolutely drift considerably in the betting, he's out to 4-1, and rip his field to pieces in the way that he did. Potentially a very, very exciting horse, for all that there is just a little bit of a raised eyebrow about what he might be.
Yeah, we were talking about off air, but I couldn't believe, and we were trying to figure out what you said was, when's the last Aidan O'Brien 2-year-old gelding, and I can't remember, and I think there ever was one, unless someone else can come up in the comments and said there was years ago. But he's very interesting, isn't he, going forward? Where is he going to go? Is it going to be? And he can run exactly what Adam says. He can run in all the top class 2-year-old races because there's no limit to them. But what's he going to do next year is the most intriguing thing. He can run as long as he wants now, and I don't know. Weird, but look, length. We'll see next, but he'll have to be Gustad for me to come back to be the best 2-year-old Aidan has so far anyway.
Well, apparently it's Albert Einstein, and then people will tell you it's Charles Darwin, and you're very much of the opinion it's Gustad. He's nowhere near that league yet. He's got a long way to go. There is just another thing to bear in mind as well. Coolmore are stallion-making operations, so any race they put him in, they're at risk of beating a horse that they want to be a stallion, and that just is the whole conversation about geldings being able to run in the Group 1 races in the first place. So it's going to be very intriguing to see how they campaign him. They've had Michael Tabor and some of the Coolmore operation have had geldings with Joseph O'Brien that have then gone on to land big races. Like they won the Irish Cambridgeshire last year with a gelding, who was given an unbelievable ride by Ryan Moore on the day, if I remember correctly. But they just don't do it with juveniles. So it's an interesting one. The most interesting juvenile performance of the entire weekend, I thought, came from Diamond Necklace, who has been in my tracker for a while, because Aidan O'Brien mentioned her at the start of the season as a horse that could be potentially interesting to watch out for. But given the fact that Aidan's horse has improved significantly from first to second start, I didn't include her in any of the elaborate bets. More fool me. She was sent off 9-1 behind her better fancied stable companion Minavera, who's got some really good form, including with Composing and the Donnacha O'Brien filly, who's gone on to run a massive race in the Albany Stakes and then go on to run a really big race in a subsequent group race too. More on Donnacha O'Brien to come in a second. But Diamond Necklace wins. And I thought the most eye-catching thing about this performance, Adam, is she's winning from off the pace. She's held up on a track which was speed favouring all day long. It was speed favouring that pace bias all day long. There was a really strong tailwind, so the horses on the front end were massively favoured. Yet she manages to come from off the pace. And her pedigree, Coolmore paid €1.7 million for her. This is not the only horse from this bloodline that they've paid an absolute fortune for. From memory, they paid $5 million for her sister Chiquita after she won the Irish Oaks. The fact that her sister was able to win an Irish Classic would tell you this horse is bred for something better. Her sister Magic Wand was trained by Aidan O'Brien to win the Cheshire Oaks, the Ribblesdale Stakes at Royal Ascot. She won a Group 1 in Australia only a few days after running in the Melbourne Cup. She was a model of consistency and a top-class racehorse for Aidan O'Brien. These same Marks Basilicas have suddenly started to come into life as well. So she's a horse that's bred to improve with racing, improve for going up in trip, and she overcame a pace bias and inexperience to win on debut. She's very exciting.
Yeah, she's exciting. The pedigree alone would make her exciting. She's overcome the pace bias. The one thing to say, this was a fast time. It was quicker than the Racing Post standard, which even though those standard times aren't amazing, they're still reasonably accurate under these conditions. So it did suit a little bit that the leaders probably went a little bit hard and it set up for a finish, but you can't be helped but be impressed by the way she galloped through the line and finished the race off. Another one to be exciting, I think she's got a Moyglare stud entry as well, which kind of looks the most logical race, just to come back over course and distance and have another go. And if she wins that, she'll have to be 1,000 guineas favourite on the back of it, surely. But this was a really good start. The second, I'm a little bit unconvinced by in the way she finishes her races, but I don't really want to detract from what was a really good performance from Diamond Necklace. She can only go and win like that, and she's going away at the line. So I think there's a lot to be positive about. And I'd imagine now they will roll the dice and throw in that Group 1 and see what happens.
I wonder, do they throw in a Group 1 and second start? They might. She's a filly, so they might very well do that. But like to find a Group 3 or a Group 2 for her to go in next, just to give her a little bit more experience and let her progress a bit more. But they can be a little bit more aggressive with those fillies because you're not talking about a potential stallion. And sometimes the fillies just take their racing a little bit better anyway and bounce back much better. Minavera has been behind Composing, Queen of Hawaii, now Diamond Necklace. She was beaten by Moments of Joy at the start of the season. A maiden will come her way. I'm just a little bit worried about her in the finish of a race. And she sets a pretty decent standard. So I think that's another reason, technically speaking, to mark up what Diamond Necklace has achieved. The horse who was in third looking for a rainbow is another one to mark up. That's Donnacha O'Brien trained. She was a big price. She's a sister to Requianto, who won a Group 2. And again, she came from off the pace and just managed to get up for third place. I think she's a horse who will improve significantly. But the only juvenile I really wanted to talk about in this podcast was Diamond Necklace, Jamie. I think she's very, very exciting for next season.
She is exciting, Emmet, but do you remember now that Aidan O'Brien still has a 7 furlong filly that won is it the Silver Flash, was it? Composing is still the one to me to beat. Like Adam says there, for Diamond Necklace, and I can see Composing going up to the Fillies Mile at Newmarket towards the end of the season. They're at the moment at that distance, 7 furlongs are definitely the best 2 Aidan O'Brien has by a mile. But it's the slight doubt that I have about that Minerva or whatever it is. That horse doesn't like winning races. You can see that already. It just doesn't like winning races, and that's this only slight doubt I have with her. But as you say, Aidan O'Brien's fillies, or it doesn't matter what, Codes or fillies, don't win like that from off the pace normally. So you can mark that up even more, I think, and she's going to improve. But I'll have to see her on her next start, but I think she's still behind Composing, yeah.
Is Composing by... So I'm a massive Composing fan, and we've talked her up quite a bit. The fact that she's a Wooden Bassett just makes me think they might want to go 7 furlongs Moigler with her, and Diamond Necklace might be more with the Fillies Mile type.
Yeah, either or. They'll be warm order for both anyway, either or. So,
yeah, and listen, Diamond Necklace needs to improve to get to Composing's level. She's not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's potentially very, very good. I've backed her for the Oaks. There's very little value, you keep being told. Well, I was able to back Zaviteri at 20-1 again for the 2,000 guineas. We've had another weekend go by with Group 1 juvenile races, and again, nobody's put their hands up. So we'll take another 20s about Zaviteri, thank you very much. And the 20-1 about Diamond Necklace for the Oaks, I think, is huge. Magic Wand was 4th in the Oaks at Epsom, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she wasn't able to handle the track or that she wouldn't be suited by it. Be a slight concern for me. Chiquita didn't run at Epsom, but the fact that she was good enough to be able to win an Irish Classic, I'm going to lean on the dam side to get the stamina out there. But St. Mark's Basilica was by Siuni. Well, he was a proper 10 furlong Group 1 performer and obviously a classic winner over a mile in France. I wouldn't have much of a concern about this horse's ability to be able to stretch out to that stamina. And if she makes the progression that you would like to think that she's going to be capable of, that's the direction they'll be going in, the Oaks. So I thought 20-1 about the Oaks for Diamond Necklace was big. I threw in 2 horses for the Derby as well, but that's a conversation for another podcast. I think they were both wild prices. But for now, speaking about horses who are wild prices, maybe we can find one, maybe we can't. Let's do a quick scan through some of the major races for the York Ebor Festival, which we're looking forward to talking about to you on multiple platforms. I'm sure that Adam's going to be writing a lot of stuff about it for TPD, and if not, he should be. We're going to be covering all of the races live on TalkSport 2 and presenting all of the coverage, touch wood, please God, which I'm very much looking forward to. And we'll have a really strong team for you throughout the entire week of it. And of course, we're going to be previewing all of the major races right here on the Final Furlong podcast with Adam, Jamie, Georgina Cox, and all of the team along the way as well. George Gorman, Peter Michael, Andy Newton, all your old favourites. We'll be previewing all of the top races from York here on the Final Furlong podcast. So if you haven't already, hit the like button on this episode and make sure you've hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel so you don't miss any of the episodes, all for free. The betting for the Juddmonte International is headed by the winning connections of last year's race, which is the Coolmore team, Aidan O'Brien, Ryan Moore, and the Coolmore partners with Delacroix. And he's going the exact same route that City of Troy took, having run in the Derby, win the Eclipse, and then hopefully go and win a Juddmonte International if he can do so. Obviously, City of Troy won all 3 of those Group 1s, but Delacroix really burst into life the other day. And just watching the Eclipse back at him, he had no right to win that race. He had no right to win that race the way it panned out. There was a speed favouring track at Sandown all week. The pace had been holding up. It's a mess of a start for him. He ends up being held up. Ombudsman's not stopping at the finish of the race, and yet he just goes right by him. And given his pedigree by Dubawi out of Tepham, he should be a horse who improves. His sister Grateful won a Group 1 over a mile 6 as a 3-year-old. He's very, very exciting. He deserves to be favoured.
Yeah, he does. I'll be careful because I know the Final Furlong podcast, there's an ongoing narrative that William Buick may have done something slightly wrong in the Eclipse. I don't think he did. I just don't think he did. I can't. I've watched the Eclipse and I'm like, well, what has he done wrong?
Peter Michael is in Turkey right now, throwing his headphones off the wall going, how could you not see it? How could you not see it?
I can imagine. I'm going to be careful to open any mail that's postmarked Ireland in the next few days if I make those comments. But I've watched it a few times. I think he's won the race at Ascot doing a very similar thing. He's kicked at the right time and he's just got done by Delacroix, who's got no right. Has finished wrong. I don't see it, but I also don't really see any obvious reason in this race why that form will be reversed.
Yeah,
and I do wonder if the race that Ombudsman won just fell apart. And that's kind of how he won it. Down on the Seal definitely interests me. I know Japanese horses do not have the greatest record, but this is the powerhouse of middle distance racing. And although it's a different discipline, look how close Satono Rev got at Ascot. The Japanese horses are a lot better than they used to be when they come over. Down on the Seal has beaten Calandagan. And I think Calandagan's the best horse in Europe. Now, I'm sure there'll be comments underneath saying that's gibberish, but Calandagan's a monster and he couldn't get to him.
Comment below, let us know.
Yeah, it comes. Yeah, I'm sure the abuse will start, but he couldn't get to him. Down on the Seal, to my eye, looked like one of the possible pace angles, but surely Aiden puts a pacemaker in. Surely. Now, I don't think it can be continuous. I don't think he's quite up to dropping down to 10 as a pacemaker, but there's got to be something that comes in here as a pacemaker. If there's not a pacemaker, De Vries also comes into the picture because he's a sprinter. He can really sprint. He's one where they've absolutely crawled and he's finished at 5 furlong pace. But I just look at this and think there are 3 horses ahead of him in the betting who all would appreciate having a decent pace to run at. There'll be a pacemaker from someone. It's messy. I don't think really I want to back Delacroix at 6-4. Not because I think Ombudsman will reverse the form. I just think Delacroix looks like an absolute nutcase to my eye. And I just don't, I could just, as likely as Delacroix is to come running past them, he also looks likely to be a difficult ride. So I'm going to keep my powder dry. If it's a small field, and I know I've told Jamie not to back De Vries, but if it's a small field and there's less than 6 or 7, I have to have a couple of quid on De Vries, because if there's no pace, he's so quick. And the reason he's won all his races in France is because they've all been really slow and developed into 3 furlong sprints, and he's quicker than all of them. He is the fastest horse in the race, but what we don't know is how deep his stamina reserves are. So if there's a pacemaker, leave him alone. If there's no pacemaker and he's double figures, he's worth a few quid.
Okay, well, he is double figures. He's 10-1 as things stand. And I really like Delacroix. I think he's fantastic. But what is the current theme that we keep seeing being repeated in the Group 1 races this season? This is the narrative for the sprints. Oh, the sprints are rubbish. You just back a big priced horse. Isn't that what we're seeing in the Group 1's full stop? And almost the repeating pattern that we seem to be seeing is any horse that comes into a Group 1 on the back of a career best effort seems to get beaten next time out. And there's multiple examples of that throughout the entire season. And that doesn't mean that Delacroix is not the one who's going to defy that. He's bred to be able to go and win this race. He's bred to improve with racing. You could almost draw a line through Epsom. He got hampered at the start of the race. He suffers interference. He gets knocked back through the field. He's essentially allowed to coast home on his own stride and not have a hard race. Typical Ryan Moore, once your chance is gone, don't give the horse a hard race. That's what he did with City of Troy. It worked out beautifully with him bouncing back to win 3 Group 1s afterwards. It's what he did with Auguste Rodin twice when he was beaten in the 2000 Guineas and in the King George, and he bounced back to win Group 1s in his very next start. So also he's by Dubawi. Dubawi hated Epsom, and his progeny, with the exception of 2 in the Oaks, all hate Epsom as well, for that matter. So maybe that race was just never going to suit him. And the fact that he was sent off 2-1 favourite for the Derby, odds on Whirlpool, that would tell you that they really hold this horse in very high regard. John Magner has openly talked about how he bets on Whirlpool. So they obviously thought he was going to win it. He's the choice of Ryan Moore in the Eclipse, despite the fact that he's won the French Derby on Camille Pizarro. Camille Pizarro drifted like he'd lost a leg and ran a great race in the race. And yet Delacroix was backed as though defeat was out of the question against the highest rated horse in the world, which is the rating that Ombudsman had been given after winning at Royal Ascot. So they obviously think there's an awful lot of improvement still to come from him, but he's 6-4. And we keep seeing short-priced horses getting beaten in Group 1s. And the only horse that interested me when I went through this last night, and I rewatched the last 10 runnings of the Eclipse, or the Juddmonte International, just to remind myself how these races are run. Often you want to be on the front end, at least either a prominent position or making the running. Ideally prominent, which I do want to ask you tactically about Darius in that regard. But he is fascinating. He's 4 from 4. He's by one of the best winners of this race ever in See the Stars. He's out of a dame who won the Hong Kong Vase. She herself has produced several horses that have gone on to very good things on the track. His half-brother was beaten 21 lengths on his last ever start as a racehorse in this race, which doesn't exactly bode well for him. But this one is by See the Stars. He wasn't. He's got another brother who's a grade 2 and grade 3 winner in America. He's won all 4 starts. He's completely unexposed. He represents the Connections, who were second in this race with Clandagan a year ago. Clandagan had to take on one of the best 3-year-olds in training, one of the best horses in training in City of Troy. We just can't be certain that Delacroix is that standard yet. And if he's not ridden too far off the pace, given his pedigree, given who he's trained by, there's a lot to like about this horse. 10-1, I think, is wild, Adam.
It is wild, potentially. But you have to bear in mind, he's won steadily run races. So last time he's 3/4 of a length in front of Bay City Roller. You know, what price do we make Bay City Roller to win the Juddmonte? 100s, 150s?
He won with ease, though.
Yeah, he did. But that race developed into a ridiculous sprint. I mean, his penultimate furlong was 10.73 seconds, which is 5 furlong pace. I think the finishing speed was around 115%. So it's not like he's won it, toughed it out. So that's the only doubt about him. Now, he may be. There's nothing to say this horse won't improve for a stamina test. But he's yet to prove that in 4 starts. But at the same time, he's won a Prix Eugene Adam. He's got an ARC entry. You know, this has the potential to be the best 3-year-old colt in France. That's probably not saying much because the 3-year-old colts in France aren't exceptional. But he's won every challenge that's been thrown at him. The French handicapper would say that he has an equivalent rating of 113. So he's got a little way to go, but he's done nothing but improve all the way through. I think that the presence of the pacemaker will find him out this time. But I do think there's a potential for him to win a Group 1 at some stage. But I just felt that Aiden or Godolphin are going to throw some kind of pacemaker at this race. And it's going to turn into a bit of a test because Delacroix needs a pace to settle. Ombudsman needs a pace to run at. The Japanese horse is probably going to go forwards as well. And there's a little nagging doubt of like do when he's been asked to go proper pace for the first 7 furlongs and then he's got to sprint. If he sprints as well, he'll win this and he'll win the ARC and he'll win everything.
Yeah.
But he's got to go do it. So it would be a small play for me if there's no pacemaker. If there's a pacemaker, I can leave him alone.
Okay.
And if he wins, then he'll just be an absolute monster.
The pacemaking options for Coolmore would be continuous
or expanded. Is it expanded?
Or expanded, yeah. But expanded is entered in the Royal Whip as well, but the Royal Whip is the race they used for High Chaparral to get him back to win the Irish Championships. I doubt they're going to run him in that.
Unless Godolphin has someone to supplement, they have nobody else but Ombudsman in the race, I think, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah. So you might get like what was the Eclipse? There was only 6 runners. I get what Adam's saying with Dara is going that pace he does, speed at the end, like off a slowly run race. But it was quite tactical. I thought the Eclipse and Delacroix I thought was more from what it won, better value from what it won, to be honest with you. Like people go around saying Ombudsman is the best thing they've seen in a long time. I think with Ryan Moore, I'd say got the heck absolutely bitten off him after the riding of Los Angeles and the Prince of Wales. It was absolutely terrible. What was he absolutely shocking? Like, what was he thinking after winning the Tattersall's South Gold and Met in Kelpana? Do you know what I mean? The form is there.
They were going 5 furlong sprint pace in the first 4 furlongs. They would have been ahead of True Love in the Queen Mary. It's crazy.
But he's worth more than the winning margin in the Eclipse. He's just a better horse than Ombudsman. Pacemaker or no pacemaker, it's between Delacroix and Dara's if there's no pacemaker. If there's a pacemaker, Delacroix will win, and it'll show that he is, to me, in my eyes, I said it on this podcast, I said it on Joe's, I think this is the best 10 furlong 3-year-old. And I hope my opinion's right with him, but it's York. It's a different time of year. It's a different track, different ground, kind of. Could be a little bit faster. But I just still think he's best. But 13-8 in this kind of deep enough race, if they all turn up Ombudsman, the Japanese horse, Sea the Fire, Darez, and they all turn up, it is a deep enough race. Yeah. But I'd like to go away to prove in my opinion, that he is the best 10 furlong 3-year-old. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that the 3 of us are not keen on Ombudsman at all. Because
10 furlong group horse, sorry.
No, you're fine. I can tell you right now, I can do spoiler alert for you right now. Peter Michael will be all over Ombudsman for this race, and he's convinced that he'll turn the form around. I'm not convinced at all. And I think there might be a bit of a plot twist in this race as well. I think they may very well run continuous. Whatever, they've just decided he's a pacemaker, and I don't think he's particularly suited to the role because it's not working for them. He blew the start in the Tattersalls Gold Cup. He made a complete mess of the Prince of Wales Stakes. He didn't really help Jan Bruegel in... I suppose he did, actually. The one time he actually did it properly was in the Coronation Cup. That's the only time he's really deployed his role effectively and in a useful way. But he was awful in the Prince of Wales Stakes. He towed Los Angeles into the race too much. Ryan should have known what was going on. Didn't react quickly enough. And then they've got it horribly wrong in the King George. So I don't know if he's the one they run. But maybe they're going to do exactly what they did a year ago. Run him, and everybody thinks, oh yeah, he's going to go forward, and Ryan's going to sit at the back just like he did in the Eclipse, and do completely the opposite. Continuous is the one who just steps back, and you go forward on Delacroix. And the reason you go forward on Delacroix is because that's what you did on City of Troy. You controlled the race in the front end, set them all up behind you, and then burned them off. And this horse was really, really good on the front end. He was beaten in 2 group races as a juvenile by 2 Jessica Harrington horses that he has gone miles clear of since. Those horses didn't go forward. He has matured and gone well past them to be a genuine Group 1 performer. When he was ridden on the front end in the 2 Irish Derby trials at Leopardstown, they couldn't get near him. He's the only 3-year-old colt to beat Lambourne this season. And when they held him up in the Derby, it was a disaster. They got lucky with the Eclipse in this race, at a track where it can be very favourable to be on the front end, in a race where it can be very favourable to be in the front end. I wouldn't be surprised if Ryan Moore goes to the front.
Go on, I'm sorry.
No, go on, Jamie. You can go first.
He's a bit, like Adam said there, he's a bit more of a lunatic than City of Troy was, though, Emmet. Do you know what I mean? I would worry about him up front. He might get a bit lost compared to City of Troy.
Throw the head to one side?
Yeah.
No.
I also passing horses, do you know what I mean?
City of Troy was rancid in the Eclipse and very lucky to scrape home. Yeah. And I think that convinced them we're a Derby winner that gets away with 10 furlongs rather than the other way around. So, and I also think with City of Troy, we're looking with the long-term Breeders' Cup Classic view of we've got to persuade this horse to get out the stalls quickly and get him going. So I just think Delacroix is a bit nuts. And the worst thing could happen is if they went forward with Delacroix and then Danon de Seal or somebody else decides to eyeball him, I could see Delacroix getting into a race at the 6 furlong pole. He just looks the type I want to have a go, and it might soften him up. Whereas if Ryan takes the view, we'll sit 3 or 4 back, it might just help to settle him. But who knows? I mean, they might try that. They might look at it and think this is the way we're going to do it. But the danger is if you front run and you go too hard as they did at Ascot, you're going to set this up for Ombudsman, because what Ombudsman really wants is an absolute end-to-end gallop so that he can come with the late last run. And if you go too hard in front, there's a danger of that happening.
True, and he clearly demonstrates that he's got a potent weapon, which is a finishing kick. Like the turn of foot that he showed in the Eclipse, it may very well be that they've just realised, okay, I mean, they were talking about him going back to a mile with him at one point. They were saying that was that reads very well for the brochure. But that's the turn of foot that the horse has. That's the speed that he has. And so maybe it was just circumstance at the start of the season that it's useful to go to the front. When you've got a horse, it's the very early days. You haven't won a Group 1 with him yet. You're trying to get him to win a Derby. You want him to get into his own rhythm on the front end and then see what you can do with him. And now they've just learned, you're a 10 furlong horse and you're a very, very good one. I think we're all agreed, though, that the only one that really interests us from a betting perspective right now, we're all agreed Delacroix is the one they all have to beat, whichever way they decide to ride him. But the only one that actually appeals to us from an anti-post betting point of view is Darius. Is that right?
Yeah, kind of, but I won't back him anti-post because I need to know the makeup of the race. The smaller the field, the more I'd want to back him. But if there's pacemakers and things coming in here, he's in trouble, in my view.
Okay. 14-1 is the price with William Hill. He's 12-1 across the board with some others. As short as 8-1 with one firm. I think he's very interesting for this. Should we be paying more attention to See the Fire, given how good she has been at York at the start of the season? And the fact that her mother won this race and caused one of the biggest shocks of all time.
Is she just not quite good enough, Emmet?
That would be my gut instinct, but I would have said the same thing about Arabian Queen, to be fair.
And I really like her. I think, her York form is there to be seen, and she won like a very good horse in the Middleton at the start of the season. But that was a Group 2, and she's just a Group 2 filly. Do you know what I mean? When no one turns up, and I really do like her. Now, you could turn around one day and she could change. She could actually rock up here and food us all because she could be an absolute York specialist, but I don't think she's quite good enough.
Adam?
I don't think she's good enough. I think they should have considered trying to stretch her out in the Yorkshire Oaks instead, because I think that might have played more to her strengths. I'm not convinced. I think she's a really good filly, but she's not just got to be a really good filly. She's got to be absolutely exceptional, because she's basically taking on 4, 5, however many Group 1 winners there are in this. It's not like this is a soft race. All of these horses have been level, and she's yet to be. I can't see it. I just can't see it.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I respect those who are putting her up, but it doesn't. She doesn't appeal to me for the race at all. Let's look at the feature on day 3, the Friday. Lady Aman is your 4-1 favourite. She does need to be supplemented, but we know that she's going to be in. Joe Fanning has been booked to ride because he can do the weight. Keeja Bracken has confirmed that Arizona Blaze is going to run in the race after his 5 furlong group win very recently, and obviously David Egan is in tremendous form, 6-1. Asafora is, well, they were saying she was going to improve from her Goodwood run. She's going to need to. 7's Saida Darian, who was really, really good at York in a lower group class not so long ago, and was one of those multiple horses who ran a big race in the Commonwealth Cup and then progressed to go and win afterwards. 8-1 for a horse, I think, is definitely a Group 1 sprint material, but I don't know if I want to take 8-1 about her. Magira 10s, She's Quality 10s, JM Jungle 14s, Night Raider 14s. Jesus. My goodness, it's just becoming really quite torturous, because actually this track might suit him, and this trip is going to say,
No.
Stop. Just stop. Just forget about it. It was a nice idea. No. Okay, Coolmore Nunthorpe Stakes. As we spin the roulette wheel of sprinters, who's it going to land on this time, Adam?
I'm going to back Lady Aman. I'm just going to take the chance. What does she get? What, £22 for most of these?
Insane. They have to raise the weight of the other horses for her to get in.
Yeah, 8 stone. I'm just going to back her. I'll take. I think she's 4-1. I'll take that. That will do me. And if I get beat by an older horse, so be it. But if Lady Aman wasn't in this race, I would not have a clue, because I think you could just throw all the balls up in the air and back anything, hope for the best, something will win. But she is in this race. If she gets an all right draw, and I think she's got loads of speed, and I just think speed and £22 on my side, I'd rather take the 4-1 than try and guess which one of this week's group sprinting handicappers will roll in. So that just looks pretty fair to me. I thought that would do. I thought 4-1 was a very fair price.
I can't disagree with you, but I'm not really going to disagree with anybody about any selection, Jamie. You can come on the show right now, Jamie, and you can say, right, this is it. This is the moment, the big bet of the year. Manacan absolutely gets stuck in. This thing can't be... You can tip whatever you want in this race. I'm not going to criticize.
I backed Night Raider 20-1 for the race. I said it here a couple of weeks ago.
I lied. Have you lost your mind?
The Duke of Clipper York Stakes. If that was 5 furlongs, I thought it would have won the race. And that's what I'm going off of.
If your auntie had balls, she'd be your uncle, mate.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. But, if you could nail down the best sprinting horse in the whole world, actually, we'd be doing very well. But no, yeah. But I'm like Adam, yeah, like 80. And I'm just very, very disappointed there's no Charles Darwin in here. I just don't understand it. I really, really don't. If you put Charles Darwin in here, I'd win all day, even as a 2-year-old.
Where is that horse?
Yeah, and I'd love to know where he is, to be honest with you. I suppose, is that the last, remember we ran about, is that the last filly to run in the race? The Wesley Ward horse for the Coolmore Acapulco was beaten by Mecca's Angel, and Mecca's Angel was giving Acapulco a lot of weight, but I think Acapulco at that day went really too fast altogether. Thought she was an absolute aeroplane, but got beat by Mecca's Angel 1-2 Nunthorpe.
Yeah, that was an Irad Ortiz.
Moment. But I'm like Adam. She gets out and she gets a good draw. She's on speed, lady. Yeah, man. I think you could put her anywhere in the race, front, backwards, at the back. She'd come in and she'd still win. But I have back Night Raider like a lunatic, and I'm happy. And if Lady Man turn up, I even be more happy with Night Raider, because I think they're like Arizona Blaze and Magira. They could beat each other. You could run the race 100 times, and they could beat each other. One could win 5 times, one could win 6, 7 times. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's Lady Man to win, and Night Raider each way for me.
No bet for me, as things stand. Spicy Marg is going to be supplemented for this race as well, which is just interesting. I think that I like Spicy Marg, and I really like Michael Bell as a trainer. And I'm not just saying that because I work with his brother Rupert Bell on TalkSport 2. I think he's a class act. But the very fact that that horse is being supplemented for the race just tells you how rubbish the sprint division is. And so I can't really recommend anything for it right now. I think Saida Darian is a very, very nice filly. I have no interest in backing her at 8-1 for this. I was thinking we'd get a double figure price about her. She's a double figure price for the champion sprint, and that had me interested, but no. I just can't do it anymore with Night Raider, mate. I can't do it. It's too painful. It's not good. So I'm going to take a pass on that race, but I can promise you that between now and race day, I will have found something to back. And I have found something to back for the Ebor, which I think we'll go to now, actually. I was going to go to the most compelling race of all, the Yorkshire Oaks. You know what? We'll do that now, actually. We'll just get it out of the way, shall we? Gee, I wonder who we think is going to win. Who could the team think is going to win the Yorkshire Oaks? This is going to be a real tricky one, folks. Who are the boys going to land on? Could it be Estrange? It was good the last day when David O'Mara's horses weren't exactly firing on all cylinders, but she still won. World's not going to run. Garden of Eden was a little bit disappointing in Germany. Aventura is not going to run. Could it be Mini Hawk at 9-4 on, Adam?
Yeah, I think Mini Hawk will probably win this, mainly because I think Mini Hawk will just scare everything else off. I like his Strange, but at the same time, the last run just made me think, it looks very laboured to me. So I just think Mini Hawk is in a different league. If there's one that, like, if you really wanted to go swinging, there's a horse called Tasmania, who is whatever price she is, 25, 33. Yeah, she was a good horse for Francis Henri Graffard. Got lost in the wilderness for a bit, taken a long time to get her right. But I thought her last 2 starts were like the Baronet was lining her up for a big run somewhere. I don't think she's going to beat Mini Hawk under any circumstances, but I think she could run into the frame if you wanted to have a sort of place or forecast bet. But really, I mean, Mini Hawk's 4-9 now. If you assume that World, Garden of Eden, Aventura don't run, you know, what price is she going to go off? 2-7, maybe? I know we had a shock in this race a few years ago, but I don't want to take on Mini Hawk because she's so versatile. And it's just, sometimes you just have to look and say, I'll just let that odds-on favourite go.
Yeah, she's the most likely winner by far. We've had very short price horses win this race before. Seventh Heaven did cause a bit of a shock when she beat Found, who was a pretty short price. There was Tigruda, was turned over at a short price by Tapestry for Ryan Moore and Aidan O'Brien back in the day, but Enable won it twice at 4-1 on. Love was 9-4 on. Sea of Class was a short price. Snowfall, who was a really talented filly, she was a short price. And you had 3-1 Content winning the race a year ago. The only horse that interests me from a betting standpoint is Bedtime Story. You can easily forgive Goodwood because it was a complete mess of a start. Heavy ground may not have suited. World stole 5 lengths on them at the start of the race and had the race wrapped up. Her sister won this race a year ago. She's a very talented filly, and you only have to go back to her French Classic form when she was only beaten a length in the French Oaks to see that she is a horse who's trained on. The ability is still there, and the step up to 12 furlongs for the first time might bring about improvement for her, given the fact that her sire won the Juddmonte International in effortless fashion, the best winner of that race we've ever seen, and that her dam was a multiple winner of the Coolmore Nunthorpe Stakes, and that her sister won this race a year ago. She's bred to excel herself at the track. So at 20-1, I'll take a chance that Bedtime Story can put up a massive performance. But Mini Hawk should be winning the race, Jamie.
Yeah, Mini Hawk, and just move on. But that you're going about lunatics like Delacroix. That bedtime story is nuts as well.
Oh yeah,
Like she's a worse head carriage than myself on a good night out dancing my night away. Like, you know what I mean? But no, just watch the race and onto the arc with Mini Hawk.
Dario's bedtime story double, 10-1, 20-1. They won't be that price on the day, and it'll be much smaller fields. Might be a small field.
You called me off my head for backing Night Raider after that double. Oh my God!
Don't put Night Raider in that treble. Don't do that to yourself.
Yeah, the lunatic treble.
Don't do that. You'll have won the Juddmonte. You'll have pulled off a massive upset with bedtime story, and then you'll be looking at your docket going, and then it rolls on to Night Raider. I was like, no, don't do that to yourself. The Ebor Stakes. So obviously, we this is a race that we're all going to have to get more stuck into. I thought this was one we're just going to talk about very, very quickly, and maybe it is because we need to know what the final field size is going to be, what's the draw going to be. But Jamie Wrenn is like, nah, I got the winner of this. I got this sorted. And then I started looking down through the race, and I went, oh, this is blindingly obvious. So there's a horse that sticks out like a sore thumb in this race. Has Jamie Wrenn spotted that one, I wonder? Who is your winner, Jamie, of the Ebor?
Last year's fifth, who was beaten 4 lengths by Magical Zoe. And Colin Keane got back that right again. It had definitely ran Magical Zoe close. Would it have won the race, beaten Magical Zoe? A bit skeptical myself because I backed Magical Zoe. But he was a serious eye catcher, and you could see the report afterwards that Colin Keane came in and said it was constantly stopped in the run. My problem is that he couldn't have the answer to Billy Lee because Billy Lee kicked it before the 2 furlong pole and away went Magical Zoe. So he was sound asleep, Colin Keane. The mind getting behind the horses, he was sound asleep when Billy Lee kicked and didn't see the gap at the time and then got stuck behind a wall of horses. But it's the same campaign as last year. It's so obvious. When I messaged you about it, after it ran in a listed 1.5 race in Roscommon, he was 4th. Hello Neighbours in that race, I think. And then all of a sudden, then runs in the same hurdle in Galway. Got beaten the year before, wins it this year. Up only £3. I backed it 10, 7-2 favourite. I think you get a proper jockey on it this time. No respect to Colin Keane, probably will ride it because it rode it at Roscommon. Probably will be Colin Keane. But I think he'll be aware this time, if it's Colin Keane, that at the Ebor, you kick it to 2 furlong pole and hope you stay. And I think this horse will stay. This surely has been the plan since last year. You know Willie Mullins, you see the glint in his eye when he's on about him, that they know that this horse is going to win the Ebor. Now, 7-2 at the moment is very skinny. If I'm going to advise a person to back horse in the Ebor 7-2, they're going to call me, I'm off my head. But I backed the 10s. I'm very happy, and I think it'll just win.
That is extreme confidence from Jamie Wrenn, but what does Adam Mills have to say?
Not a lot. This is not my sort of race to get stuck into particularly. I can see the case for Hip Hop Deloire, but I'm not. So if I was on at 10s, I'd be smiling. I won't be getting involved in 7-2 in a race like this. But it's not one that particularly appeals, so I'm quite happy to see it out at this stage.
Okay, I think there's a horse that sticks out like a sore thumb. And he's a horse that I talked about before on the podcast as, this fella is going to be lined up for a handicap. London City. He won a handicap at the Dante meeting a year ago. He beat Align the Stars, who went on to be rated 101. And by the way, is now becoming well handicapped. He's a horse we need to keep an eye on as well. He's only had 2 starts this season. He was absolutely lapped by a lot of joy. And if you just take a look at that form, you go, he's beaten 12.5 lengths, no chance. Watch how he shaped in that race early on. He shaped very, very nicely. And then they put him in a Group 2 behind Al Rifa. Not in their interest to be winning that race. Wouldn't be up to beating Al Rifa anyway. But he shaped better than the bare result of that form as well. He was ridden by Ronan Whelan that day. He was a 33-1 shot. That was telling you he had no chance. He's got a mark of 104. He's by Justify and is still a full horse out of Winter. There isn't a better bred horse in this race. And Coolmore have landed big gambles in this race in the past. 14-1 is the current price about London City. I think it's insane. He's very interesting. The other one that's far more obvious is Plage de Harve. We've talked about this horse quite a bit on the podcast. He was wildly impressive at Haydock the last day. That was off a mark of 92. He's now up to 101. but he's still a very unexposed horse. He's done most of his racing on the all-weather. He's only had a couple of starts on turf. It's Andrew Balding, who's just been winning left, right, and centre in all the big races this season, particularly the handicaps. I would imagine he'll be Oisin Murphy's ride, and you're getting 10-1 about him. He's the one that would interest me most of all, but London City is definitely a horse to keep a very, very close eye on for this race. Is there a very strong bet that you have for the York Ebor meeting right now, Adam Mills?
There is actually, in a race we haven't discussed yet, which is the new Group 1, the City of York Stakes, the 7 furlong contest. I think that the form from Deauville is going to prove to be very strong. Woodshorn has already given it a vote. Now, the line in winter is currently somewhere between 10s and 20s. So I'd assume he's probably not running. And if he's not running, then surely Marinara Charlie is a bet at around about 5 or 6 to 1. I thought Marinara Charlie was really gutsy last time. York is going to suit. I think that form is better than what Never So Brave has achieved so far. I don't think the current favourite, Rosalien, hasn't looked like a 7 furlong horse to me, and whether he even runs yet here, I'm not sure. But Marinara Charlie, if he lines up in that 7 furlong contest, I think he's crying out for this kind of setup. Really tough, gutsy, hard-working horse who goes hard. I think this is perfect for him, and I'm quite happy to take the 6 to 1 about.
Okay. Marinara Charlie, he's been trained for the race, hasn't he?
It's been the plan for a while. So, and I think they had an early experiment in the season when they thought, well, maybe we can sneak him back down to 6 furlongs. They had one go at that, realised it didn't work, back up to 7. I like the way he finishes his races, because you always watch, when you're watching him, you're always thinking he's going to get swamped. He's going to get swamped. And then he just keeps going, keeps putting his head down. Last time he would have won. He would have won if he'd stayed on a straight line. He just drifted across the track. Big field here is going to suit. I think he might be one of the bets of the week.
Whoa. Wasn't he bought by Royal Bond Thoroughbreds very recently? The Racing Post website has suddenly slowed down dramatically, so it's not working for us. That's off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that they mentioned before he even ran the other day that this was the race that they really wanted to go for with him, and then he ended up running a blinder behind Woodshawna. Again, the website has just completely crashed on me, so that's fun. Jamie, is there any horse that stands out to you as a proper bet between now and Juddmonte meeting?
Yeah, mine would come in the Lowther, especially because Venetian Sun here is top price 5 to 1 and doesn't look like it's running. But the second is who's second to Newmarket in the July meeting, Royal Fixation, would run here 11 to 8. But you have to take note of a way America Queen when it's made. I think it was at Haydock. Won by 12 lengths. It's 7-2 to find out to beat Royal Fixation. 12 lengths compared to beaten by Venetian Sun, and didn't look like being beaten Venetian Sun in Newmarket. Yeah, 7-2 find out American Queen will do for me, because I thought she was unbelievably impressive. And she was slowly away, and it was over. In the middle of it was just over. And it looks a serious tool. And I think it'll win, American Queen for the Lowther for me,
Okay. I'm going to put up Darius for the Juddmonte International. I just think completely unexposed, represents last year's connections to the second. He can definitely improve for Group 1 racing. He can improve for a strongly run 10 furlong race as well. And I think he's a really fascinating contender. I have massive respect for Delacroix. Huge respect for him, but he's 6 to 4. We're getting 10 to 1 about Darius, and I just don't think we're going to be getting that price on the day. I absolutely respect what the boys say about a pacemaker, but I'll take the chance that Miguel Barcelona and Francois-Henri Gaffard can do us a massive favor at a big price. And I am really interested in Bedtime Story as well, but I don't genuinely think that she can beat Minnie Hawk. And obviously, Ryan is going to be on board her, but she's literally bred for York. So if we're going to see a big performance from Bedtime Story, it may very well be there. And 20s could be huge. That's a fascinating running of the City of York Stakes. I'm really looking forward to properly previewing that and everything else for York as well. You'll hear it all here on the Final Furlong podcast. You can subscribe to us on YouTube for free. If you hit the subscribe button, it doesn't cost you anything, but it's a massive help to us. So we really appreciate your support with that. Likes on this episode are much appreciated as well. If you've enjoyed the conversation, if you'd enjoyed the crack today, we appreciate your support of the show. And of course, most of you are listening on the podcast apps. Your support of the show means an awful lot to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, Castbox, TuneIn, all of the good podcast apps, and some of the rubbish ones as well. Adam Mills, when is your next content coming out? Do we have more Racing League stuff for TPD?
We do. We have a Racing League preview that will be out on Wednesday. We've also got an in-depth look at Rebels Romance's race yesterday, kind of going into the data and what we can learn from that Chairman Group 1.
Nice. Jamie Wrenn, when is your next podcast appearance, aside from the final furlong?
Ginger Joe, catch us every Wednesday night. It'll be out Wednesday night, Thursday morning. We do our weekend previews, but we're kind of getting sick of the flat and roll on the jumps. I'm
not sick of the flat. I'm really enjoying it. But I did just have a conversation with somebody about a National Hunt preview the other day. And it's the first time in a few months that my eyebrows raised. And I was like, yeah, I can't wait to actually talk about jumps racing. But I'm really enjoying flat racing still. And it's going to take a couple of days to just do a full deep dive back into National Hunt racing and go, oh yeah, that novice hurdler. Yeah, we want to see what that horse does as a chaser this season. There's lots to get stuck into, lots to talk about, and hopefully you'll be here alongside us as we do. From Adam Mills, Jamie Wrenn, and me, Emmet Kennedy, hit the subscribe button to this episode. 70% of you are watching the videos and not hitting subscribe. Please hit the subscribe button. It's a huge help to us. It doesn't cost you anything, but it's a massive help to us. And likes are much appreciated as well. Really hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, drop us a comment below. We like interacting with you as well. You can do that on the podcast apps as well. From Adam Mills, Jamie Wrenn, and me, Emmet Kennedy, look after yourself and each other. God bless.
Thanks for spending some time with us on the Final Furlong podcast. We're independent media, so if you like what we do, hit like, share, and subscribe. It's free, it's quick, and it genuinely helps. And if you enjoyed this episode, there's plenty more where that came from. Don't miss out. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major platforms, and join us on the gravy train. The Final Furlong podcast, independent, unfiltered, and powered by you.